strength, leadership, power, authority, guidance, patience are God's gift to us as men. We have to cherish that, not abuse it. I prayed this morning to be a better listener. It didn't work so well. We're human. You get back up. Yes, I've been high up on the mountain. I've been blessed. But that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And it's lonely up there. Yeah. You know, people don't know that side of it. We did not come this far to just break down and lose now. I'm a winner. I'm going to win. True desire in the heart, that itch that you have, whatever it is you want to do, that thing that you want to do to help others and to grow and to make money, that desire, that itch, that's God's proof to you. Sent beforehand already to indicate that it's yours. Aspire to make a difference.
So you are what you are in this world. That's either one of two things. Either you're somebody or you're nobody.
Welcome back to another exciting, effective living conversation. Happy New Year's, everybody. Happy New Year's. Boy, listen, we crossed over. And I am joined with my brother from another mother, Dominick, man. We're starting the New Year off together. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Man, this is exciting. I don't think we've ever, in all of the years we've been together, decided to do a first thing New Year's Day talk. I mean, this is going to be different.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And how's the wife? How's the family? How are you feeling about this new year?
And I'm excited. I think in the stage of my life and the season that we're in, this is an acceleration time for us. And I think doesn't mean that we don't have our challenges, but I think who I am today has me excited about what we're going to do and who we will, continue to become. So
nice. Well, you know what? I wanted to do something and you came to mind right away. And that was, I wanted to do a leadership talk. As you know, you and I have done a few of them already. But I said, man, starting the new year off with strategies for those who are doing business and they're leading wherever they are in a NGO or in a community organization, on their jobs. At the end of the day, we need leaders. We need entrepreneurs. We need business influencers to speak up and help those who are on the sideline trying to do it. So this morning, I wanted to really dive into day one, effective living leadership tips from Dominick Antonino. Come on. Man, listen, talk to us a little bit about your leadership journey, man. How did it start, and did you always see yourself as a leader?
I don't know. I think in some regard, yes. I guess in a lot of regards, yes. I dropped out of high school in my 12th grade year. That's not the very leadery thing to do.
Right.
I went into the Army and I excelled in leadership there. I was top of my leadership class. I excelled through the ranks well. But my own immaturity really held me back. Got out of the Army and went into the sales environment and been in there since 1996. And I think every place that I worked and every place that I was in, I always, in the back of my mind and sometimes in the front of my mind and out of my mouth, I would just think I could do this myself. I can do this as my own business. And, pastored some churches or started some churches, pastored some churches. And then just, settled in by accident. I got into the staffing industry, where it's been a great leadership journey. I think this is where my leadership has really matured the most. As of, I guess 2 months ago, I've reached really my goal was to be a president of a company. And, as of a couple months ago, I was asked to not only take over as president of the division that I'm in, but then also take over a sister company as the president there. And so it's been a hell of a journey, I guess. I'll say it that way.
Man, it's been fun to be on the journey with you and watch you evolve over the years. Let's talk about leadership traits,
Yeah.
navigating all of the highs and lows that time brings us. Obviously, this new year is going to bring a lot for a lot of people, and leaders who are considered effective leaders, they normally rise to the occasion. What are some of those leadership traits that you think is very healthy for times like this?
Yeah, I think, let's assume that we have the foundational, the team building, the delegation, planning, execution. Those are foundational skills that you need to have as a leader. And depending on the level of your responsibility of a leader will determine the demand on those skills. And so, excuse me, I think, sorry.
Yep. Okay.
I think those foundational skills will continue to grow and develop as your levels of responsibility continue to grow. But outside of that, I think today's leader is in many regards probably more demanding than at least in the last 20 years. And I think, the markets are always changing. Right? Your industries are always changing. Consumer behaviors are what they are. I think the biggest shift that's putting a demand on leadership is more internal, like within the organization. I think really we talk a lot about COVID and kind of the effects it had, but I think really what it did, it woke up inside individuals a different mindset towards work. And what their values are. And then you layer on top of that the generational differences.
Yeah.
I think the leader has to be a different person, different individual. And I find that, especially in our industry, or specifically in our industry, that's what I'm most exposed to. This is where most leaders struggle. Again, I think it comes from the internal leader, right? And so, I think it's more than just confident. In the beginning of this, I really thought it's because leaders weren't mature and they weren't confident in their own skill or their own, who they are. But I think the more I walk this out, when I'm looking at hiring leaders, I'm looking for very authentic people who know who they are. And even more important is ensuring that their authentic self aligns best with our environment and what we're trying to create. And so there's a lot of things that encompass that. But I think that the biggest thing to recognize as a leader is the shift in demand that's placed upon us today. It's more internal. It's inside of us, and it's inside our organization. It's not necessarily an external market dynamic.
How important is keeping yourself open for growth? Because there are some people, they capped out because they stopped growing. How important, in your opinion,
I think a leader always has to grow, right? Every individual has to grow. I tell people you got to be yourself. But if who you are is not good enough, then just get better, right? Just become better at who you are.
Yep.
I like Bill Hybels. He said, everyone wins when a leader gets better. Yep. I think those are paramount. And because even if things stayed the same, they never stay the same. And so you're having to constantly grow. But again, I think what we grow in is even more important than just growing, right? And so you can be ineffective and become more ineffective because you're just sharpening skills that are already not working for you. And so again, I think knowing where to grow is just as important, if not more important, than growing.
Sometimes there are leaders who end up with a position. This is in ministry, in various organizations. And unfortunately, they stop seeing the big picture. How dangerous is that? And how necessary is it for one to always be able to see the big picture, which actually causes you sometimes to move beyond what you think and see to embracing what others are seeing and thinking?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that question. First off, I mean, if you can't see the big picture, you can't lead, because that's vision. You have to be able to see that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned about seeing beyond yourself,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the shifts. Again, these are things that have always been around.
Yeah.
But the demand today is requiring more. And that is, if you're not confident enough in yourself and what you bring and secure in that,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to allow other people to be all that they can become and bring the value that you need from them. And so you're not always going to see everything. And so you have to have a team around you that can see what you don't see. And you have to be confident enough and secure enough being okay in that. Now, you have to be able to make the end decision based upon that information. But I can't be all things to all people, right? But I can be the best me, and I can bring what I bring. And then I can allow people to be the best that they can be, and then collaborate within that. And we're going to have a better decision and a better direction. And if nothing else, a better plan moving forward. But ultimately, the end decision is my decision, right? And it's my responsibility. Because one thing that hasn't changed is the responsibility still lies on the leader.
Yes. So good. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning, Happy New Year's. We're so grateful that you guys decided to tap in and say, let me see what Ricardo is talking about on effective living. Well, we're starting the day off with strategies, y'all. We're starting day one. How do I win? How do I advance? How do I prosper in what I've been called to do? And I know a lot of leaders follow this platform. So I've invited my friend and brother, Dominick Antonino, to join us and talk about some leadership strategies. Dominick, I want to talk about confidence. I want to talk about the role confidence plays in the life of a leader. You referred to confidence a couple of times in your response just now. There are a lot of people, especially people of faith, who have the skill, but they have been taught to dumb down the whole dynamics of confidence to a point where it's affecting their professional and personal lives. Talk to us about confidence in the life of a leader.
Yeah, I think if you're not confident, you're not going to be able to make decisions. Right? You're always going to be, and look, there's times you're always operating in some level of fear because you don't know, you don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
But you have to have confidence, and you also have to be humble. And I think there's another word in there. I think I've mentioned it is secure.
Yep. And
so I can be confident in who I am. But I also have to be secure in who I am, because those two will allow me to be humble and receive from other people, right? And so I think, for the most part, people are smart, right? And they're talented. That's why we hire them, right? Unless we're hiring wrong people. And we dumb them down by feeling like we always have to be right. I have a saying that I've coined last year is, we don't have to worry about who's right. We just have to worry about doing right things. And so the more people that I can involve in my decision-making, then the better that decision becomes, and the more likelihood we are that we're going to do the right thing. It doesn't have to be my thing. It doesn't have to be what I thought. It doesn't, but that comes from a confidence in who I am and a confidence in who I've hired, right? And it doesn't mean that it's just the leaders that you're listening to. You have to listen to the floor. You have to listen to every level, because everyone has a different perspective and insight. But a confident leader can do that. If you're immature in your leadership, or you're not confident or secure in yourself, you're going to feel like you always have to have the answer and you always have to be right. And I guarantee you, most of the time, you're going to be wrong.
Wow. Let me ask you this. Can you provide a couple of encouraging points or thought to our viewing audience about the whole concept of surrounding yourself with some really good people?
Yeah.
If you really want to win, like you said, but then also knowing that you surrounded yourself with some good people, you could now not be so needing to be the one to always respond. Surrounding yourself this new year, It's a strategy to win. If you're surrounded by phenomenal players on the team, chances are you going to Super Bowl. What's your view?
Yeah, I think, again, it starts with that security and confidence in yourself, because hiring is, at least the way I lead, and hiring is probably the most important activity that I'll do. Because if I surround myself with the right people at all levels, right, then I don't have to worry about the hard skills of leadership, because they're going to manage themselves. Right. I can focus on the soft skills. I can focus on more strategic things, and incorporate their insights. Right. So if you're the smartest person in the room, you're the lid.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you have people that are like, I have a guy that does our IT stuff. If my computer breaks, I don't know how to fix it, but he does. Right. I have people that work in all different areas, that allow us as an organization to become better. And so, having those right people in those places, it's really going to dictate if you're successful or not. That's really what it is having the right team, shows that. So I think you have to be courageous enough to let go. You have to, have the confidence that you're making the right choice. Have the confidence that these are good people. I think that is something that we struggle with a lot in leadership, is we just don't trust people. And I think Stephen Covey's, I think his name is Stephen, but his son, he wrote the book Speed of Trust.
Yeah.
Excellent book. Yeah. And it talks about empowering people, right? And letting them go. And so you've made the decision to hire, you've invested in the people. Be okay with allowing them to do their thing, even when it's different from what you would do, because then it becomes greater than who we are.
So good. So good. Let me ask you this. When it comes to fostering positive growth and just organizational structure with the team, the concept here is, okay, how do I make sure that our culture is fostering positivity and growth, with everybody knowing this is okay?
Yeah. I think it comes back to trust. I think really the more leaders that I talk to that struggle, they just don't trust their team. And when they don't trust their team, it causes them to manage at a level that confines that rather than empowers and releases. And nobody I'm telling you, the workforce today does not want that, right? And so there's a big shift to remote work. That's not a surprise. But the way people have shifted to that, and some people are pulling back from it, I feel is more about the leader than it is about the individuals. When COVID hit, I had just taken over an organization, and we shifted, and it was like the next month we shifted to a remote. Everybody went remote.
Yeah.
Right. And the people that shifted well to that, they did well, during COVID, and then coming out of COVID. The people that struggled with it, they really had a hard. Some went out of business. Others just barely survived. But it comes down to trust. And when I'm at conferences and different leadership events, and people are asking us, what are we doing and how are we having the success we're having? It comes back to this, is people just don't trust their people. Right. And so you have to hire the right people. If you hire the right people, it doesn't matter where they work. I tell my team, I don't care where you work, just work. I don't even care when you work, just work. And so I'm hiring for the result. I'm not hiring for the activity.
Wow.
Right? Because you can do a lot of activity and not get to the result. Yeah. But that requires a great amount of trust that I'm hiring the right person and they're going to do their job. Right. Most of the times we're approaching people from the standpoint that they're doing the wrong thing versus they're doing the right thing. And if you're an environment that's assuming you're doing the right thing, if you're a responsible individual, right, you're going to want to do more of the right thing, and you're going to value that because it communicates that I value you as an individual and what you bring to the table. that fosters a positive environment. If I'm operating from a place of distrust or assuming you're doing the wrong thing, so I have to manage every detail of your work, you're not going to want to work in that. You're not going to want to work in that environment. And it communicates that I don't value you as an individual. You're just a resource within the organization.
Let's talk about this quickly. We're now in a new year. There are some people who are leading, but they're not leading well. Indicators of poor leadership, behaviors of poor leadership. What comes to mind? Just a couple of ones.
Micromanagement. I think also not being intentional. I see this a lot as well. Is we think that there's micromanagement on one side, and the total opposite is just the reactionary leader. Right? You're not really leading. You're just kind of reacting to things. And so I think you have both. And so, but the end result is this: are you getting results? Right? Everyone could be happy in the organization, but if you're not getting results, you're really not leading. You're just fostering a social community. Right? And so I think the end result of effective leadership is results. Right? But then there's the other layer of retention, and then how happy people are. So I used to call it the dichotomy of leadership. I now call it the balance of leadership, and it's just vision and people. Right? And you have to have the right balance. That doesn't mean it has to be equal, but you have to have the right balance. And so if you're too much on the vision, then you're going to abuse people. If you're too much on the people, you're going to sacrifice the vision. And so I think effective leaders are going to have the right balance of that, and that's going to be evident in their organization.
But you saying that leadership styles vary, we know that, right? Can you share examples of successful leaders who have adopted their leadership approach based on the unique need of the team or the organization?
Yeah, I think, again, so I've really leaned into just this concept, or I don't know what this concept, but just authentic leadership. Okay. And I think who an individual is the most important thing, because they're going to do that naturally. All right. And then from there, it's just more about the skill set necessary to perform in the environment that they're in. But it's always expressed through who they are. All right. And I think that's a difference. And so, again, market dynamics are going to have all different type of demands on the hard skills that we possess. Right. And the hard skills always have to develop, and that's just depends. If you have a larger team, you need to get better at team building, right? Or you need, if you have multiple layers of leadership, you got to better at delegating. You have to be a better communicator. You have to be more precise in your communication. You got to know how much communication. All those are going to be dictated by the situation you're in, but what does not change is who you are. And I think it's very important as a leader to be in an environment that aligns with who you are. If you are in an environment that does not align with who you are never going to reach your potential as a leader, and you will be frustrated, and you're going to frustrate the people around you. And so I think what I've determined or decided or come to the conclusion of, at least in my own life, where I am is more important than the dynamics that I face. Okay. Because if I'm in a position that I can be who I am, I'm very confident that I can handle any dynamic that's thrown at me, if I'm allowed to be fully who I am.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're joined with Dominick Antonino. Dominick, when we look into the future, you know who you are. There are a lot of leaders who don't. Or they once did, but they have not taken the time to study self. How important is that? And I mean, along the way, I've known you for a while. And one thing I know about you, you can say with confidence, hey, this is who I am and this is who I'm not. But then knowing you're like, okay, this is who I'm not, and this is also limiting me. You know that. How important is it for a leader to get to that point? Because this year, we can all go to new levels, but boy, if we're not willing to address the inward understanding of self.
Yeah, I think that is the most important thing as a leader. And again, the hard skills are the hard skills, but especially with today's workforce, your emotional intelligence is probably your number one skill as a leader. And that's self-awareness and self-expression, and then a lot of other things wrapped around it. we went through an executive coaching program and really and did an assessment on emotional intelligence, and it confirmed a lot of things that I already knew about myself, but more than that, it opened my eyes to how those things affected and impacted my growth and my leadership. And that's probably the most important exercise I've done in my career. And so I think that's where we have to grow. And I'm going to tell you, it's tough. You're as a leader in your journey, you're going to be in all different environments, and they're not always going to align with you. If you're fortunate, you're going to have good mentors. You're going to have people that, you're going to be in environments that align with you and value you. Most of the time you're not. And that's a hard road. I'm fortunate to be in a place now that allows me to be fully who I am. Right. But you still got to operate in the other environments. Right. But understanding that I can, when I'm allowed to have the full expression of me, then I can really become better at who I am as well, because I'm going to understand it more. But it's very freeing as well. So I guess to answer the original question, emotional intelligence, I think, is the top skill or the top area of development that leaders need to undertake.
So good, so good. When it comes to emerging trends and leadership shifts, which we are seeing, what do you anticipate, and how can leaders prepare to embrace and thrive in all of the changes that's happening?
Yeah, so I think our workforce is going to continue to develop. I think as we're starting to pull people back into the office, I think there's going to be a clash. Right. And so, in our area, it's hard to find people to work. It's like restaurants, especially, they have a difficult time hiring staff. And I think people are looking for something different in the workplace. And if you cannot hire and retain the right people, you won't have a team to accomplish anything. And so I think that is where the biggest shift will continue to come. Is we have to change how we lead. We have to change how we treat people. For a long time, it was okay to take out basic humanity out of the workplace, right? The organization was more of a person than the people that were in the organization. And people are not putting up with that anymore. They're waking up to realize that companies are only as loyal to me as I produce for them. And so it's really not, they're not loyal to me. They're loyal to what I bring to them, right? And so that recognition also tells people that my life should not be about an organization, right? And so it requires us to really lead the individual and really invest in people to an extent where they feel valued, they really feel loved, I guess you'd say, and that they're willing, they feel that the environment, they can trust you because you trust them.
That is so good. They can trust you because you can trust them. So, so good. Ladies and gentlemen, today I wanted to do a talk on leadership because I know there are a lot of people, you hold the seat of leadership, but the question is, how well have you been leading? And this new year, you really want to look a little bit closer as to what you've been doing and ask yourself some questions as to how better can I become in what I've been called to do in the season. Dominick, my last question. Resilience is often emphasized in leadership. Let's talk about that for a minute. Can you share stories or an insight into how leaders can bounce back from setbacks, man, and what role does resilience plays in a long-term leadership success?
Yeah, I think you have to expect to fail. You're not always going to make the numbers. You're not always going to reach the pinnacles. You're not always. That's part of the journey. And I think for me, I focus on the fundamentals of what we're building as an organization, and having right expectations. But resilience, I mean, if you don't get where you want to go, if you give up, you're never going to get there, right? And so it's just knowing we tend to look at things from January to December or whatever to whatever. Look at it as a journey of what we're trying to build, right? And not looking at things as vision is not necessarily a destination. It's a continual process,
Yeah.
right? And that resilience, having that resilience is extremely important, because you're not always going to be up, right? And so you got to go through the ups and the downs, and if you're not resilient and you can't stand flat-footed in the times of adversity, your team will not as well, because they're looking to you to say, are things okay? And if you're freaking out,
Wow.
they're going to freak out. But if you're confident and you've established that trust in them, they're going to say, okay, it's a little shaky now, but my leader seems okay. It's like when you're on the airplane and you feel turbulence, most people look at the flight attendant,
Yeah.
right? Because they know if the flight attendant is calm and cool, they're used to, they know if this is good turbulence or bad turbulence.
Yeah.
The flight attendant looks nervous and worried. It's probably time to be nervous and worried, right? And so your resilience and ability to overcome these things will transcend into your team.
So good. Dominick, in closing, as we talk to that leader who 2023 was difficult for them. As a matter of fact, they've embraced the idea, boy, leadership is hard and I don't know if I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is they have the potential to, and someone recognized the gift in them to appoint them to, but yet they feel the overwhelming responsibility that comes with their position. What advice do you give to someone who's starting on day one that you would say, listen, lean into this and give yourself a chance to be all that you can be? What would you advise that leader?
To make sure it's really what you want to do, right? Because someone can appoint you. It doesn't mean that's what you want to do.
Correct.
And leadership is hard. Yeah. Leadership is about responsibility. Leadership is about being unselfish and being concerned about other people and sacrifice. And so just because you have the potential doesn't mean you have the will. And so it is hard, and that's just what it is. And so you have to be okay with that. And if you are okay with that, also know that it's going to be hard, and you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs, but that's what a leader does. A leader navigates through those obstacles and finds the success in that. And so I say, leadership is responsible for the more responsibility you have, and you have to do it. Otherwise, move out the way and let someone else do it that will.
So good. Ladies and gentlemen, today we were joined with my kingdom brother and friend, Dominick. We were talking leadership today. This year, I'm going to challenge him to try to see if I can do one of these once a month, at least with my brother. He's a busy man, but here's the deal. What I need you to do is take what's for you. Something was said that spoke to your spirit, and you got to do the work, y'all. You're not going to get the result just by simply listening, reading, or attending a seminar and saying, I heard that before. The question is, are you applying it so that you can get the benefit from it? Effective living is going to be here for you. And we're going to continue to bring in guys like Dominick to try to help challenge you to live your best life. Dominick, thank you so much, my brother. Happy New Year's to you and yours. 2024, man. God's been good. We are here. Listen, have a great day, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this, you know a leader, you know somebody who is taking the seat of leadership, tag them. Go ahead and share this and invite them to connect with Effective Living and tell them, hey, I like this talk. I thought about you. You need to listen in. And this is a day when a lot of people's off. So maybe listen to it a few times and take some notes as to what you want to do, because my brother shared some really, really good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. Dominick, thank you again. God bless you, sir. Happy New Year's, everybody. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. I'm interested in seeing what's your takeaway from today's talk. God bless you.